Hello everyone, my name is Ricardo Quinones, and I am here today to talk to you guys about self-regulated learning and how it works in mathematics. We are going to be talking about its definition. We're going to be talking about different models of SRL, right? Self-regulated learning, also known as SRL. And we're going to be talking about strategies for self-regulated learning skill development. So we have a few strategies based on research and examples that show that they can be useful and practical for classroom environments, right? So our first object is, what is self-regulated learning, right? Self-regulated learning, or SRL, can be defined as a metacognitively, motivationally, and behaviorally active learning in an individual, right? So it's pretty much how a person self processes and self analyzes whatever they're learning, right? It takes into account how a student processes and transforms that incoming information by themselves. And it is shown by research that students who implement SRL in their education usually show more success and optimism by having control of what they learn, how they regulate it, how they process that information. They show more success, more practic- practicality, more optimism, right? In how they learn, how they process it. And here we have different self-regulated learning models. These models have been shown to help better visualize how these concepts work and how the process works, right? For example, here we have two. I'm gonna show three models. One of them is shown here, which is from Zimmerman. It's called the social cognitive model of self-regulatory competence development. So this model pretty much explains in 4 steps how the development of SRL works, right? So the first step is known as observation, where the students observes information. Emulative, they can see how, for example, in a classroom, how the teacher shows that information or that lesson, and they can start to emulate it, right? To see how it works, to practice it. And while they're practicing, they self-control whatever they're learning. And by the end, after the learning process, they can self-regulate, they can analyze, evaluate whatever they learned and whatever processes they did throughout the this process, right? And another model here is the model by Bocarts. It's a 6-component model. Here we have different categories. They have 2 different columns, one which is based on cognitive self-regulation and another based on motivational self-regulation. And these have 3 different rows that focus on goals, strategy use, and domain-specific knowledge. So based on these different categories, one can better visualize how SRL can work, right? And here, which is the most common known model, is Zimmerman's model on self-regulation phases and subprocesses. This one has been seen a lot, and it consists of 3 different phases. We have forethought. Forethought is when the student starts to analyze, set their goals, make plans for whatever lesson they're going to be having, and so they can be ready for that learning experience. Then we have the performance phase. The performance phase is when they start learning that information. They need to have self-control and self-observation, so they can process however they perform. And then after that, we have the self-reflection phase. The self-reflection phase is after the performance process, after they learn, which includes self-evaluation, self-judgments, self-reactions, pretty much a reaction after the learning process, what they learn, how they learned it. And taking this feedback from the self-reflection phase, they can reapply it for next time and for next lessons or whatever they learn next to another forethought phase, and that's how the cycle continues, right? So by doing this, they can learn from the performance phase, or like if they did any mistakes or any things that they can work better on. they can redo it via this cycle, and that way you can better monitor how the students autonomously, like to think autonomously, right? Sorry about that. All right, and now we have here, I want to share some strategies for self-regulated learning skill development, right? These three strategies are very essential for SRL in a classroom, and surely these can help in improving and better applying SRL so that the students can get more used to it, right? So the first strategy is SRL environment building. Here, pretty much what it means is that by setting the classroom norms and goals based in SRL from the beginning is really important. And not just in the beginning, but in general. Because having this comfort zone, if you want to put it like that, for the students, it's really essential for them to be more comfortable, think out loud, think with other students, just to have a comfortable space for them to think without any sort of distractions or judgments, right? For example, here on the first day of class, you can have a teacher that, right, according to the Mathematics Association of America, they have shown that, for example, on the first day of class, by making this a comfortable space, first impression, like having an introduction, and having the students like know one another via like group activities, you can make the space more friendly for the students, and that can help the teachers to create an opportunity to have them the students better think metacognitively, right? And think in an SRL environment, regardless of whatever culture they have, some characteristics, backgrounds, performance levels. By having this environment building, you can have the teachers can better access the students' self-regulated thinking without having to force it, right? And the teachers can also, in the classroom, during lessons, design activities so they can promote the students' metacognition. These include, for example, cooperative problem solvings, argumentations, and debates. And another topic we'll be talking about in a bit, formative assessment. These are all very, very important for us to consider whenever doing activities, so that way both the teachers and the students can benefit, right? Um, the second strategy is goal setting. So for goal setting, pretty much is by having the students set their goals. This is pretty crucial for their success. It develops SRL. So by having a concrete endpoint, if you want to see it like that, by having a concrete goal, the students can better motivate themselves to right to learn, and therefore self-regulated learning, by becoming responsible autonomous thinkers. The students can define their learning and therefore recognize their goals. And by determining goals, students can have a concrete source of motivation to develop their learning, right? And examples here, according to Rader, she made 6 steps of success, which has worked for her in her classroom. These steps are for students to better um, localize and identify their goals. So first you choose a specific goal and you write it down so you don't forget it. You decide a time. It can be short term, long term, whenever your goal can be achieved. You develop a plan to achieve that goal. You visualize yourself accomplishing that goal in that specific time frame. Of course, you have to work hard, never give up, always be there, um, working your best. And at the end, you self evaluate, you reflect on how far you have come, and see how far, if you reach the goal, if not, how you can continue working to reach that goal. And again, goal setting, by having that goal in mind, you can better think and motivate yourself to better to to think about how you want to succeed, right? And the third strategy is formative assessments, right? Formative assessments, we have heard of them a lot throughout the classroom. Formative assessments involves making students' learning visible during the learning process so that they can receive learning feedback from their peers and their teachers, right? So it's a form of assignment. It is not necessarily graded, that you hand out to the students so they can show their thinking throughout their assignments. This gives the teacher the opportunity to adapt their lessons based on this feedback. And again, they should be learner friendly. So if you don't grade them, if it's just for them to be motivated to write down their thoughts and their processes of learning, they don't have to feel forced or judged, so that way they can be more motivated to write it down, right? By not having them graded, be learner friendly so they can feel more comfortable sharing their thoughts without the sense of being judged, right? And some examples that have worked according to research, we have pre and post assessments according to Weiser. She applied them in her classroom, and she had the pre-assessments, which are study concepts in advance for students to review before the lesson. So let's say she has a lesson in mathematics, fractions. She shows some fractions beforehand. If the students know and don't know, they can write it down. And post assessments, which is after the lesson, they self evaluate on what they just learned in the lesson. So they put out feedback if they understood, if they need help in understanding, if they didn't understand at all. And this way, the teacher, wiser, gained access to her students' thinking and allowed her to improve her teaching approaches to the students' benefits. So this way, by knowing the students, she could modify her lessons and help them out in whatever they needed. And this allowed her to view the students' way of thinking regarding the topics, and in that way, they were also improving SRL. Another example I want to share is just-in-time teaching. You can call or abbreviate it as JIT. It is a type of practice that employs pre-class assignments to shorten the feedback loop between outside and inside the classroom, right? And these questions, according to the Mathematics Association of America, they should be thought provoking and short for the students to internalize before the class. In other words, they should be not too simple for them to just write down and forget, but not too complex for them to like stay too much time thinking. And by this way, they can start processing beforehand before the class, so that way whenever they arrive to the class, they are ready for discussions. And this way, it also improves their self-regulation before the class, and also after the class, after the whole lesson, they can better analyze with that pre-context given. And the JITs usually end with reflection questions, so that way the students can start developing their metacognitive skills before entering the classroom, right? And those are the three strategies that I wanted to share. I hope, and these are the references. I hope that this presentation helped you learn more about what self-regulated learning is, its different applications, its importance in mathematics classroom, and not just mathematics classroom, but in every classroom as a whole. So that way you can start applying it to your classrooms, so that the students and you can benefit from its benefits.